What is up, people? Today we're talking about 3 quick tips for the Roland SPD-SX. I'm going to take you step by step, and these are 3 things that I just think are really useful that most people will probably have to know at some point using the Roland SPD-SX. So the first tip is setting up one of the samples you load onto the Roland to loop. I like using loops instead of running full-on backing tracks. What you can do is you can load loops onto the Roland, and you're playing along to the click track, you're playing, it's great, and then you get to the chorus and you want to add a little extra lift, you want to add a tambourine, you want to add some kind of percussion thing to make the chorus just pop a little bit more, give you a little bit of something that you don't have on stage with you and that you don't have another limb to play. That's a really great use for looping a sample on the Roland, and you actually don't have to load a super long loop. You can load a 1-bar, 2-bar loop, put it on the Roland, and then set up the Roland itself to loop it. So let's go over how to do that. The first thing you'll need is a flash drive. I'm sure all of us have some of these lying around, and all you'll need to do is take whatever loop you want, whatever sample loop that you're trying to loop on the Roland. All you need to do is put it in the main folder, the root folder on the flash drive. Just take your sample loop, drop it on here, and then plug it into the USB slot on the back of the Roland. And now that that's done, what you'll do is you'll hit Menu, you'll go to the utility down here, and you'll go to Wave Import. You'll look through if you have a bunch of samples, you have to look for a little bit, but you'll find the sample you want and hit the plus sign to get a little check mark right there, and then you'll just hit Enter, and you get to pick what kit you want to load it on and which pad you want to assign it to. So I've actually already done this, so I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go to Menu, going to go to Kit Pad, and here is my loop. So if you'll notice, if I hit this, that's all it is. All it is just a 1-bar loop that stops playing after the 1 bar. So let's set it up to loop. Let's go to the Mode tab right here, and you'll notice I turned dynamics off. All my samples, I turn the dynamics off because I like to make the front of house job easy by just, when I hit a pad, it's always going to be that level. And loops especially, if you hit that pad and you accidentally hit the edge of it, or you don't hit it quite as hard as you mean, that loop will be stuck at a certain dynamic that is too low. So what I do is on all my pads, I just turn dynamics off so that when I hit it, no matter how hard I hit it, it's going to play at that volume. So that's the first tweak I did. And then what we want to do is we want to go to loop, and we want to make sure that it is on. You can get more specific with how many times it plays, but I'm just going to turn it on until I hit it, and then it's going to turn off. The next thing you're going to want to do is make sure that it is assigned, as the pad is assigned not to shot, but as to alternate, which means when you hit it, it'll come on, and when you hit it again, it'll go off. So the alternate is fun. The shot is kind of cool, but every time you hit the pad, it's going to continue to loop endlessly. Just sounds crazy, just sounds like nonsense. You're going to want to make sure it is set to alt, which means that it will alternate. When you hit it, it'll come on. When you hit it again, it'll come off. So dynamics are off, it's set to alt, and then it's set to loop. And that's just going to loop until I turn it off. And there's 2 ways to turn it off. You can just hit the pad again because it's on alt, and when you hit the pad again, it'll stop playing. Or you can hit all sound off, which is this button right here, and that will turn it off. So that is tip number 1. That is how to set up pads to loop samples that you load on. Tip number 2 is using kit chains. So when you start to get a whole set built out with an artist or several artists you play with, what you'll find that ends up happening is you'll have a ton of sample kits set up on the Roland, and depending on what order you put it in, you might have just been, for the first show you played, you built out all the kits in the order that set was, but 2 months later you're playing a different set order, and what I never want is to have to skip around a bunch on the Roland. I don't want to have to jump from kit number 1 all the way to kit number 20 all the way back to kit number 3. I don't want to have to think about that. All I want to do is hit the plus sign and I'm at the next kit for the next song. Kit chains are going to allow you to, instead of having to skip around, you just skip specifically to each song. You can order the set and you can put kit number 20 next to kit number 50, next to kit number 32. It's really, really useful to build out a set list that you don't have to think about. You just hit the plus sign and you're where you need to be. So let's see how we do that. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to Quick and you're going to go to Kit Chain, and this is your kit chain. So this is kit chain B. You actually have the choice of kit chain C, D, E. You can make a ton of kit chains, but as you can see here, kit chain A, I go from kit number 50 to kit number 18 to kit number 23 to kit number 51. So you can just sit here and edit this. You know, you can, the first kit we'll say is kit 28, and then it's got to go to kit number 48, and then it's got to. So I've set up my kit chain, I built it out. You can see it goes down as far as you want it to. And all I have to do is go back to Quick. Oh, sorry. You can rename it if you want. I don't necessarily see the point in renaming it, but all you have to do, now that you have kit chain A selected, all you have to do is get to your quick menu and hit plus, and now you can see that chain A is happening. You're on kit number 48 now, and the next one is going to be 23. And then you can see I'm at 23, and now the next one's going to be 51, and you're done. And when you want to get out of the kit chain, all you have to do is go to the quick menu. All you have to do is hit the minus sign and hit kit, and now you're off of the chain. So kit chains are a super useful way to not have to bounce around, not have to find kits that are buried really far away. You can just order them how you need to and then go for it. The third tip is how to load and save in the entirety of your Roland SPD-SX. The first reason you'll want to back up your entire kit is, you know, I've had my Roland for 7 years and I've built it out a certain way. It's got a ton of customizations. It has my favorite samples on there. There's a ton of work I've done over the last 7 years to make this SPD-SX custom to me and the way I like it set up and having the samples I need. So I want to make sure I back it up so that if this Roland ever does die, or if it ever crashes, or for whatever reason, and I've never had this happen, but for whatever reason the memory dies in it or something, like, I have all my kits backed up, so I don't have to find those samples again. I don't have to. You can back up the whole Roland, put it on a flash drive, and then if the Roland has some kind of issue, or if I get a second Roland. You know, I know a lot of acts that when they have one piece of technology, like a Roland SPD-SX, they'll have a backup just in case the main one goes down. And in that case, it'll be nice to have a backup so that you can just load it really quickly. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, you know, these machines have a limited amount of stuff you can store on them. And if you play with a lot of different artists, especially if those artists use backing tracks, you might fill up the internal memory on the Roland, which is not a big deal, because what you can do is for every artist, you can essentially have a save all file that, you know, when you're playing with this artist, you load up this entire Roland and it's ordered in a certain way and it has certain samples and certain tracks and backing tracks and whatever. And then when you play with a different artist, you can take your save all file from that artist and load it on and have that entire new, all brand new Roland to save as much as you want. And then if you have another artist you play for that uses a ton of backing tracks, you're never going to run out of space if you're just storing these files and loading per artist. It is kind of a pain, but if you have to fill this thing up with a bunch of tracks, you'll want to be able to offload them when you're not using them. And the save all feature is a very good way to do that. So whether or not you're just backing up to be safe, or you're backing up because you need to clear room to work with different artists, you're going to want to know how to save the entire kit preferences and all the samples, and you're going to want to know how to load them. So let's dive into it. The first thing you're going to want to do is have a flash drive that can store the amount of whatever you save. So if you have 2 gigabytes saved on the Roland SPD-SX, you're going to want to make sure your flash drive is bigger than, 2 gigabytes. So how we're going to do this though is you insert the flash drive in the back of the Roland, and you're going to hit Menu, you're going to go to Utility, you're going to go to Save USB Memory. I always do All. And then you can save it and you can pick a file name. And then you can hit Enter and it will save everything. And this does take a while. It takes a minute for all of this information to get loaded. Once you've done that, it's backed up. When you save all and you say you back up your whole Roland, it saves it in a particular file structure on your flash drive. The Roland does that for you when you're saving it, but if you ever want to load these backups, like I have all my backups in Dropbox, and they're just files that are sitting there that if I ever need them, I can get them out of Dropbox. But if I want to load them on the Roland, I need to make sure that whatever flash drive I'm using has this particular file structure. Otherwise, the Roland won't know where to find these files. So here's a picture of the certain file structure and where all these backups need to go. So now that you have it all saved, that's great. It's you know, you've got your file structure on your flash drive, and you can load whichever backups into that file so that if you need to use them, you have them on the flash drive. So now to load it, it's really easy. All you do is go to Menu, go to Utility, go to Load USB Memory, go to All, find whichever backup you need, and again, if you haven't saved the backups in the correct file structure, you won't see anything in this list. All you'll see is nothing, or it'll say no memory found. So this is the one I want to do. I can hit enter, and then if I hit enter again, it will load it. And again, if you have 4 gigabytes of stuff stored on this might take a while, but it's that easy. It's just a couple of clicks and you're in business. So those are the 3 things that I think are super useful, super quick tips. The first is how to set up a pad to loop. The second is using kit chains to jump around between kits. And the third is how to save and load your entire backup of your Roland. So that's it for me today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe, ding that notification bell. I'm putting out lessons every single week, so if you ding that notification bell, you'll be sure to get everything that I'm putting out. Put in the comments, you know, what's your favorite quick tip for the Roland SPD-SX? What's your favorite feature? What's your favorite little way to tweak it to make it your own that you use all the time? I want to know, so put that in the comments, and yeah, see you in the next one.